You gonna be with me on my PowerPoint, right? The red light's not on. I would shake your hand, but I'm.
Well, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
We didn't come to the hospital because of Donnie's situation
That's okay.
with all that lung mess. I
No
don't want him
problem.
catching anything else.
Yeah.
You'll have to be careful too.
Yeah, they told me I could come, but I needed to be.
You might need to put a mask on.
I got one in my pocket when I go out. I'm going to put it.
Well, it's really good to see you look good.
Thank you.
But you was in my thoughts and prayers.
That's what counts.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin the meeting tonight, I'd like to have a quick word of prayer. You're welcome to join me if you wish. Heavenly Father, I come to you tonight in humble gratitude. Thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us. As we celebrate the teachers of the year tonight, Lord, I'm reminded of how blessed we are to have so many men and women in our district that love children and the education of children and their well-being. I'm also thankful for a community that seeks to be involved and support our schools. We truly do have so many things to be grateful for. And I pray that we not lose sight of how blessed we are as we navigate what are inevitable trials in our lives. At times we do find ourselves in a wilderness of chaos and confusion, sometimes conflict, and many times that wilderness is of our own making. Whether it's the result of something we said or didn't say but should have, or something that we decided or didn't decide but we should have, or an action that we took or didn't take and should have. May we be willing to lean into your arms and seek your will as you make a way for us. As we proceed with our meeting tonight, I pray that we're all reminded that we're here for such a time as this. May we have ears that intently hear, minds that clearly understand, and tongues that respectfully communicate. Give us wisdom and discernment. Lead, guide, and direct us. And may we remain humble so that you may lift us up in your time. In your holy name I pray. Amen. At this time, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're at the Board of Trustees meeting, September the 11th, 2023 at Chapman High School, 7 p.m. At this time, will you please stand as the Chapman High School Air Force Junior ROTC Color Guard presents our colors. Thank you. Now, Chapman High School Student Body President Kaya Grace Lauder will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You may be seated. Just a quick thank you to Kaya Grace. Thank you for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And thank you to our ROTC Honor Guard for help manning the door and handing out agendas tonight. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the Chairman's Report. The first item under the Chairman's Report is the consent agenda, which includes approval of tonight's agenda, approval of the budget hearing minutes from June the 12th, 2023, approval of board minutes from the meeting August the 14th, 2023, and approval of invoices. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Baker. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Sloan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, I would like to introduce our newest audit committee member. So at this time, would Ms. Melanie Burgess, would you please stand up? just so everybody can see you. In 2019, the Audit Committee was established by policy to assist and advise the school board regarding audit-related matters. This committee is comprised of 1 school board member and 2 community members. Each community member, 1 from the Landrum community and 1 from the Inman community, serves a 3-year term, and by policy, the sitting board chairman has the responsibility of appointing the committee members once a seat becomes vacant. As such, I have the pleasure of announcing the appointment of Ms. Melanie Burgess to be the District 1 Audit Committee Inman Community Member. Ms. Burgess is a graduate of Chapman High School and Converse College and has almost 25 years of finance-related experience. She's currently a financial advisor with Edward Jones and is the regional leader for 49 branches in the upstate of South Carolina and western North Carolina. And that means managing more than $4.4 billion with a B in assets. She and her husband, Scott, are parents to Caroline, who is a senior at Chapman High School, and Ansley, who is a 9th grader at Landrum High School. She also serves on the praise team at Westside Baptist, advocates for small businesses through the Boiling Springs Business Association, and is a strong supporter for the Alzheimer's Association. Given her strong financial background and her dedicated commitment to community service, I'm certain Ms. Burgess will be an outstanding member of the Audit Committee. Congratulations, Melanie, and thank you for your willingness to serve. That concludes the chairman's report. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, and that's Dr. Mark Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for coming to our board meeting for here in September. I want to start my section of the program tonight with a little story. 22 years ago, on August 2nd, my life changed forever. My wife and I had our first child. It was a baby girl, and I came from a family of boys. I had no idea what to do with this precious gift from God, but I bawled like a little baby as I held her, and I knew that anybody ever touched that little girl, it wasn't going to end well for them. She's my pride and joy. Little did I know, a month and a half later, all of our lives were going to change forever. With September 11th in 2001. And I was teaching 7th grade social studies at Fair Forest Middle School, and everybody remembers where you were, but I remember teaching those children and getting a knock on the door to tell us to turn our TV on. You know, all I could think about was my little girl. And, you know, out of that tragedy where we lost 3,000 Americans, and I pray we never forget that day. Was able to attend. Inman had a wonderful service this morning, led by our JRTC cadets. So they've been working overtime. So Colonel, give them an A+ today because they have worked hard representing our school and our nation. But I would like to take this moment to have a moment of silence for all those lost in September 11th. And then I'm going to recognize some very special people. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. The very important people I'd like to recognize, if you're a first responder, if you work for our police force in any capacity, if you're an EMS worker, if you work at the EMS call center, if you're a firefighter, if you've served our country and currently serve or have served our country in the past, would you please stand up? Don't be ashamed. Please, thank you. Thank you. I know you're proud. These folks are so humble, sometimes they won't stand up. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to thank you all, you men and women, for serving our country. And you know, out of 9/11, our country became stronger, and everybody was so proud to be American. And you know, I think we need to think back to those times of how we can come together as Americans. We live in the greatest country in the world, the greatest country. I thought there'd be some Baptists in here say amen. I didn't hear an amen. I am so thankful to live in this great country. But I thought I would be remiss not to recognize our servants amongst us and then to recognize those fallen heroes so many years ago. So now I'm going to recognize some more heroes. I'm going to recognize our teachers of the year. So Dr. Beeson and Mr. Cawthorn, will you meet me at the podium?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. We would like to recognize, as Dr. Smith has already stated, a wonderful group of heroes who are representative of all of us. All of our schools are represented. Some of them were not able to be here tonight, but we do want to call their names and recognize them. And Teachers of the Year, you're going to be receiving an additional gift tonight on behalf of Casey Atkins and the Technology Department of Spartanburg School District 1. They are providing you with an additional little certsy in your bags tonight. So Campobello Grambling Schools Teacher of the Year is Catherine Mitchell. Chapman High School's Teacher of the Year is Carrie Forrest. Oh, they need to get, you gotta give them the bag. Sorry. Okay, good deal. Good deal, thank you. Holly Springs Motlow Elementary School's Teacher of the Year is Rhonda Henson. Inman Elementary School's Teacher of the Year is Mary Beaver. Inman Intermediate School's Teacher of the Year is Carolyn Boyce. Landrum High School's Teacher of the Year is Danielle Floyd. Landrum Middle School's Teacher of the Year could not be with us, but he is Dominique Babel. Mabry Middle School's Teacher of the Year, Shelley Walker. New Prospect Elementary Teacher of the Year, Kristen Moses. O.P. Earl Teacher of the Year, Amber Eves. And Swafford Career Center Teacher of the Year, Greg Lauder. And the Spartanburg School District 1 District Teacher of the Year is Landrum High School's Teacher of the Year, Danielle Floyd.
I have the pleasure of recognizing another group of heroes, and they are volunteers that do not get paid for a great job, and it's a lot of work. I have the honor of recognizing several of our board members. We're part of South Carolina School Board Association, and it's a board member and leadership team, and they lead training, and it's a priority for the South Carolina School Board Association. Each year since 1982, the School Board Association's Board Membership Institute offers a year-round of training curriculum focused on leadership skills for board members on state and national educational issues. We're always pleased to have these individuals who have reached one of the 6 levels of the South Carolina School Board Association's Boardmanship Institute. Congratulations to our following board members who've reached a new level in the school year of 22-23. When I call your name, please come shake Chairman Cawthorn's hand, and he will hand you your certificate. Miss Debbie Baker, level 1. Debbie, just line up. We're going to line up. You know we're going to get a picture. Jada doesn't ever let us get away without a picture. Miss April Fowler, level 1. Coach Steve Skinner, level 1. Coach, I can bring yours to you if you don't want to walk all the way down. Just stay right there. I'll bring it to you. All right, Coach Skinner, thank you. He's coming. He's hard-headed. I tried to save him some steps, but he's old coach. Mr. Billy Cothran, who's completed level 2. Congratulations, Billy. Mr. Mark Holden, who is joining us virtually on a Google Meet because he's out of town with work. So Mark's completed level 2. Congratulations, Mr. Holden. Miss Brenda Rogers, level 2. Come on, Miss Brenda. And last but not least, Mr. Travis Sloan completed level 4. Mr. Sloan. And let's get a picture. All right, check. You know, a superintendent's a lot like a preacher. You give him a microphone, you just might as well settle in. Nobody else said amen. I just thought we had that down by now. I mean, come on, guys. All right. Oh, man. Listen, I would like to take, don't worry, it's only going to be 10 minutes. I would like to highlight for the school board and our community the wonderful start to the school year. I'm brand new. I started February 16th last school year, this calendar year. And you know, this has been a dream come true. I never thought I'd move out of Roebuck. You know, I thought big, right? Never thought I'd live out of the big town of Roebuck. And I've moved to the big town of Holly Springs. And I couldn't tell you how much joy and how happy my family and I are. We just are so thrilled to be a part of your, I heard an amen on that one. Thank you, sister. I'm just so thrilled, and my family's so thrilled to be a part of your community so much. And I've shared this a couple of times. I've got 4 children. 2 are at Clemson and 2 are still in the home. They both go to Chapman. That's where we zone for, Landrum folks, so don't get mad at me. We're zoned for there. I got a senior and a freshman, and we try to talk to them. You know, it's like pulling teeth talking to a teenager. But both of my children have told me, thank you, Dad, for taking this job. And what they mean by that is, of course, you know, they always thinking in terms of money, you know, teenagers. But what they really mean is they have loved being in your school system. They have given you nothing but compliments of how good our teachers are, and that's for our teachers. My kids have told me it's harder up here. Congratulations to our teachers. Our teachers are working so hard, but we're just real thankful to be here. But I want to take a few minutes to tell you about the great start. Go ahead, slide 1, Casey. We're off to a great start. We've got more kids this year in School District 1 than we ever had before. If you'll notice, the last 2 years, we've seen significant growth. Last year really popped up about 260 more kids. This year, we have a few more than last year, but this year, we have 5,446 kids on the 10th day of school. So business is really, really good. People have heard the news of how great District 1 is, and they are coming to our community. And we're so thankful for that, and we're so grateful to serve these children. Very excited. The next thing I'd like to highlight is for the first time in District 1 history, we have a full-day 4-year-old program for the first time ever. And this program is SURDEP, is paid for by the state of South Carolina, and we've been able to serve so far this year 146 4-year-olds all day long. And let me tell you about that. Yeah, you can clap for that because that's a great thing. Because these 4-year-olds, 75% of them, you have to qualify. There's a certain percentage, but there's 75% of them have academic or socioeconomic need. So a lot of these students weren't able to go to a 4-year program last year. So our 4K teachers are superheroes. I should have them here tonight because, man, they've been working hard because a lot of these kids have never been in school. And you teachers know when you're training them up, it's a difficult few weeks. So our 4K teachers are battling and they're hanging in there. But you know who's going to benefit the most from this? Next year, when our 5K teachers receive 146 4-year-olds that have had a full day of 4K, our kindergarten teachers next year, we're going to see significant increases in students and what they're able to do at the 5K level. So I just want to give a quick shout out to our teachers, 4K, Miss Wright, and Amber for leading up this program. Very proud to be serving our youngest and most vulnerable children and giving them great help at such a young age. Next thing, from our teacher and staff survey last year when I got here, our teachers and our staff communicated loudly and clearly to me, and teachers will tell you what you think. They'll tell you what they think. They will. And they told me we needed to take a good hard look at our discipline in our schools. So a couple things what we did. We looked at our behavior matrix, and we tightened that up because our teachers told me you need to tighten it up. So we tightened it up. And the school board was gracious enough to allow us to budget for 6 new positions, behavior support specialists. And these specialists are to, 1, have ISS, in-school suspension, so we can offer consequences at the school level so you don't always have to suspend people out of school. But more importantly than that, these behavior support staff members are charged to work with our children that need extra support. So I don't have any hard data yet because we just got started with the school year, but I've already talked to several principals, and I've heard story after story from principals telling me that our behavioral support staff have already made connections with our children that need the most help. And we're already seeing some of these children not getting in trouble anymore. That's an amazing thing because it's not always about giving consequences. You got to look. Now, you do have to give consequences. You know, that's part of life, right? We parents, we do that. But you also got to tell them and instruct them on how they can do better and get to the root of the problem. So I'm so thankful, school board, this was your investment. This was your investment into our schools, and our teachers and our staff and our students are reaping the benefits of that. So I wanted to highlight that. Next, also in the staff survey, I saw from staff that they're tired of covering classes. Coming out of COVID, we've had a really hard time of finding substitute teachers, and our teachers are worn down. So I looked into this, and with some support and with the school board support, we hired Kelly Services. Well, I'll be honest, because I'm an honest guy. I lay my cards on the table. The first 2 weeks, it wasn't real good, okay? We were struggling, but I know why. We had a 40% increase in absences this school year, the first 5 weeks. Now, our teachers are no more sick or no less sick than they were ever before. But you know what happened? Our heroes got so used to coming to work sick because there was nobody to cover their classes. So by the school board making this investment, by getting Kelly Services, we have teachers and staff now that are willing to stay home when they're sick because they know now we have a better opportunity to cover in the class. So last year at this time, we had 474 absences. This year, we've had 662, which is a significant increase, but it's because our teachers are feeling like they can stay at home and actually get better from their sickness. So how are they feeling it? Right now, averaging 78.25% fill rate. Our last year average was 62%. So already in a short time, even with more absences, Kelly Services has improved us by 16%. But it gets even better. Today, because I've been working with them, because, you know, they told me it'd be at least 85 to 90%, and I'm not going to settle for any less. Today, we had 89% fill rate. Tomorrow, we have 97% fill rate, unless some teachers call out before I leave here. I checked before I came, and it's 97%. But Kelly Services is making a difference for our teachers and our staff. So thank you, school board, for making that investment. Next slide. This year, we're participating in community eligibility provision from the Department of Agriculture, and that is allowing, excuse me, all of our students to eat free. We still have some students in our community where there's food scarcity. I know that's hard for us to believe, but we still have students that the only meals that they receive are at school. And it's hard to wrap my brain around that, because, you know, I grew up, we didn't have a whole lot, but Mom and Dad always made sure we had food. And as you can tell, I partook. And I have not changed that. I got a leg cut away from the table. But food scarcity is a real issue. And this program is helping all of our students eat free. So I'm very thankful for that. Next piece, I want to talk about student engagement. I have challenged all of my principals, assistant principals, staff, support staff, teachers. I want to get our kids involved. Because if our kids are involved at school and we're engaging them in academics, in fine arts, in athletics, and JROTC, and didn't they do a great job tonight? Man, they did a great job. They've done a great job all day, and they do a great job from Landrum as well. We're Army at Landrum and ROTC, the Air Force here at Chapman. But I'm so proud of them. But I want our community, I want us to get our kids involved, because the more we can involve them in at school, the better off they're going to be. So what are we doing to engage our kids? Take a look at our band here at Chapman. I'm going to highlight Chapman first, okay? Chapman's band and color guard, they had their first competition on September 30th at Burns High School. And our directors and our musicians have been practicing so much, and it's been so hot. And you know, they don't always get the credit they deserve, but they're out there in the heat, just like the football team, and they're sweating, and they're doing a great job. So real proud of them. Also want to highlight our sports teams. At Landrum and Chapman, we've got volleyball, we've got tennis, we've got cross country, we got girls golf. All those teams are off to great starts. I've been to pretty much everybody an event already, and I have seen our kids performing at a high level. But now there was one particular ball game in particular I'd like to point out a couple weeks ago with football. Hit the tape, Casey. Not to brag, but y'all watch this for about 30 seconds.
And goal from the 2.
Everybody standing, shouting, waiting for the Panthers to score. 3:41, 14-10. 3:37 remain in the game. Handoff, quick over to Keanu Nye. Keanu Nye runs, and he scores! Chapman on top! Keanu Nye with 6 points, 2-yard run. The Panthers have moved on top. Crank the bus, hike the ball. Let's play.
Second and
Now, I tell you,
goal.
hold on, there you go, Casey. I thought there'd be massive cheering at that. For the first time since 1966, Chapman beat Burns High School in football. They were the number 2 ranked team in 5A. If you don't pay close attention, we're 3A. Burns has about 3,000 students. We have 1,000. But they toted a loss 2 weeks ago here in our stadium. I won't point out too many names, but somebody's son may have had an interception in that game. I won't say who. I'll just let your minds race, okay? Very, very proud of our team. To watch the reaction of the team and the students when they're going crazy, it made anything, and I may have some tough days, okay? And that's fine, that's part of the job. But when I walked off the field after hugging my son, who was a part of it, and seeing our other kids, that's special. That's special. And I wouldn't take all the money in the world or all the drama in the world. I wouldn't trade it for that moment, because when my boy walked off the field, we were really excited. And I was excited for all those boys. Now, not to be outdone, let's talk about Landrum High School, okay? Last Friday night, we had the cheerleaders, we had the band, we had the ball team, we had the ROTC, we had all these student groups. And we also had a DJ. We had a DJ come, and I want you to see how our student section responded. Go ahead and play it, Casey. We had around 100 students, not out partying, not out anywhere else, in our student section at Landrum going crazy, cheering us on to a 47-21 victory over Polk County. Give it up, our arch rival. 47-21. I knew, and since my son's a senior at Chapman, I couldn't be there because I don't want to miss his game because that's my last go at it. But my phone was blowing up from adults saying, Mark, the kids love the DJ. And the DJ was there to support the band and the student section and the cheerleaders, and that's exactly what happened. The kids had a blast, and that's what I want them to take away from school. Done right, school can be so fun and so engaging, and as a lot of us, some of the best memories of our life, right? So to see our kids celebrating, and the football coach, he never texts me after the game. He texted me after the game and said, our student section impacted the ball game because they were so wild and crazy. And we actually had a student from the other school post on Instagram about how crazy our student section was. That's pretty good when your enemy, or you're not enemy, but when your rival is talking about how great your student section was. Next slide, please. Oh, and then I want to play this. We had a great touchdown from Mr. Colton Link. Go ahead and play it, Casey.
Very good at what they do.
So they'll mark the penalty back, brings up 1st and 15 now for the Cardinals at the Wolverine 30-yard line. Link takes the handoff. They've got him surrounded in the backfield. He gets away, breaks into the open, down to the 20, down to the 15, down to the 5, and into the end zone. Colton Link strikes again, this time from 35 yards out.
Very, very good.
Now, Travis Sloan won't tell you, but he used to run the ball like that about 50 or 60 years ago, Travis. But that was a big win. And then last slide, please, Casey. Our Landrum Band is doing great. I'm so proud of them and Mr. Studley and all the work they're doing. Their first competition is also at Burns on September 30th. And they're not the only ones working hard. Our chorus in all the schools, our orchestra, our artists are all hard at work preparing for fall concerts and fall shows. All that's happened in 5 weeks. We're off to a great start, school board and community, an engaged start. And that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to engage these kids, and we'll get them excited about school. And, I know school can be tough sometimes. But when you throw them a carrot and you try to do fun things, they pay attention. And, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Where'd he go? Okay, there you go.
So this is a time of transition. If you need to leave, we're going to have just a few minutes to get everything set up. You're welcome to exit out the back doors, but give us just a few minutes and we'll resume the meeting. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the public participation section. And we do have a few speakers, so if you'll just bear with us, we'll try to do this in an orderly fashion. We have, I don't know the final count, but it's a few. So what I'll do is I'll introduce the speakers. We have set up 2 sides to kind of help with this. So I'll call up 2 people at a time, and we'll alternate on each side. You have 3 minutes. And Dr. Mathis, are you keeping time for us? Okay. So speakers, if you would, just kind of pay attention to Dr. Mathis, and she will direct you as to how much time you have left. But we'll try to be as flexible as we can, but due to the number, we will stick with the 3-minute policy, so don't be offended if I have to cut you off, okay? Speakers may offer objective comments on school operations and programs that concern them. However, we cannot permit in any public session expression of personal complaints about school personnel or people connected with the district. So, first two speakers, Ms. Laura Terrio and Mr. Eric Schwartz. Ms. Terrio, your time starts when you start.
Good evening. My name is Laura Terrio, and I have a freshman and a senior at Chapman High and a fifth grader at Inman Intermediate. I'm here to express that I do not support the surveillance state that I'm seeing set up in our schools with the Stop It app and the Clear Bag policy. Students were told it's an anonymous anti-bullying app, and yet what I hear from my children and their friends is that it's being used to prank classmates with bogus anonymous claims. Parents were told all tips are followed up, resulting in an investigation of presumably innocent kids, which is a form of harassment in and of itself. When I attend my son's game or my daughter's performance, I can't carry my purse, I need a clear bag, all in the name of added safety measures for our own protection. History has proven that once accountability and privacy are removed, we don't get them back easily. I realize there is a mental health aspect to the app aimed at assisting kids in a dark place who could possibly harm themselves. But before stripping basic liberties with unproven policy and apps in the name of safety and mental health, we should first do what we know will help our children and remove material from our media centers that promote mental illness and self-harm. I have reviewed a catalog of material in District 1 cross-referenced through booklooks.org. A lot of harmful material has been placed in our schools, and I'm happy to share with you what I have. In addition to wildly inappropriate gender ideology and sexually explicit content, I found books like Impulse by Ellen Hopkins in the Chapman Library catalog. This book discusses using heroin, anti-police sentiment, puncturing your veins with a paper clip, how deep to cut yourself with a razor, and the challenges of being caught by a younger sibling. You need to ask what educational value and what potential harm does this material provide. I think the board should be less concerned with dictating what purse I carry to the game and more concerned with who chose this and placed this material in our schools, while locating and removing all of it. Mr. Chairman, I would like you to commit today to assigning a subcommittee of at least 3 elected board members to personally review the entire catalog of material in District 1 and promptly remove any harmful content. I also request the recent Clear Bag policy and Stop It app be seriously reconsidered. Relative to most public school districts, District 1 is doing rather great, and I commend the board and our community for making this the case. I want to preserve everything that is great about District 1 and help make improvements where needed. I'm Laura Terrio, and I'm running for a seat on this board to continue to uphold constitutional and conservative values, and I would appreciate your support on the ballot this November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Terrio. Mr. Schwartz, the time starts when you start.
Board members, thank you for allowing this evening. From the heart of this concerned citizen and all those who treasure the lives of our younger generations, I did not come here to slam the establishment nor voice any personal opinion or bias toward those who sincerely believe that what our children are currently exposed to is for the greater good. I come as a U.S. citizen, grandson of an immigrant, husband, father, son, District 1 community member, and a business owner in this county. I have come embracing a morality based on a biblical principle that are not just mine, but those that the founding fathers of this country embraced and used as a guide to form a more perfect union. I am greatly concerned over the influence that extremists have leveraged into the hearts and minds of children who are completely dependent upon an understanding and upbringing that will shape their lives forever. The extreme that I allude to is the indoctrinating of our children with unbiblical and immoral values concerning their identity and everyday lifestyle that is eroding our society. Age appropriateness is disregarded, and I am not sure at what age some of this could be considered appropriate. As I have read some of these books, I wept in sadness that even if you are not a believer, how can you square this and say that it's okay? So here is the question: how does a child in their capacity evaluate and bring to an understanding in their mind that is reasonable and moral to be able to judge for themselves what is right and what is wrong? If a parent wants their child to have this type of reading, let them give that to them. It is not your place to do so. You are only to teach the children to read, not what to read. Now look at the younger generation's behavior today compared to what would some label as archaic or living in the past. If patriotism, proper gender identity, according to God, obedience and respect are outdated, I am truly afraid for all of us because these are our future leaders. I believe it is time not to repeat what we know to be simply ludicrous when it comes to being forced to read about subjects that never before approached by generations that valued innocence above administrative and/or social pressure and valued a child's right to be a child and as a teenager to be a teenager without confusing them as to alternatives we have deemed socially acceptable to bring into their lives. Never before have we seen such sexual immorality and difficulty identifying a man from a woman in all human history until now. When a few force radical ideas on the many of you may not be agreed or even concerned, but we will all be held responsible for raising up the children in the ways that they should go by the God that gave us the very life to each one of us in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. The next two, Mark Bishop and Lena White. Who wants to go first? Ms. White?
All right, thank you. Members of the board, Chairman Cothran, Dr. Smith, first of all, congratulations to our Teachers of the Year. You did an outstanding job, and we're lucky to have you guys. Well, I am a dedicated taxpayer. I am a lifelong resident of District 1, and that is by birth. I was born in Holly Springs, and by choice. A few years ago when we put our house up for sale, our very first request of our real estate agent was, it must be in District 1. There was no other place that we wanted our children to be educated. Now, at the time, I was working in Roebuck, and I was making quite a long drive. It would have been easier for us to move. My husband works in District 5. It would have been easier. We love this district. We love what you have done. So imagine the shock that comes to mind when we find out, as many of our community has, the content that sits on the shelves of taxpayer-funded libraries, chairs that they can sit in and read right there. Now, if any of this content was made in motion picture form, it would not be allowed to minors. I would have to give parental consent for my child to go and be exposed to this. And if, as it was alluded to, it may not even be appropriate for public consumption at any level, at any rating. So I want to ask, and I think you guys have been aware of the Horry County policy, and it brings in so many stakeholders into the conversation. Now, we just learned there's new members for our audit committee. If community members are brought in to oversee our finances, can we bring in community members to help oversee what content our children are allowed to see? I just want to know, this is not new to think that our community is important to District 1. I want to quote directly from our website, and it says, our schools strive to foster cooperation between the home, the school, and the community. Parental, and it goes on to say, parental and community involvement and support are crucial to the learning process. We want to partner with parents. We want to see this school district to be the best school district in the state. I've sat through the meetings. I am an alum. I am the mom of alums, and I know how highly we rank among the state. I am a proud Landrum Cardinal, And I love that we got to beat those Wolverines. And my daughter, my most recent graduate, was a Chapman Panther, and I know she's proud of the Burns victory. Let's continue with excellence, but let's do it in a way that ensures excellence in every area. Let's not delegate responsibility. Let's come together, do what we know what to do is right, and let's ensure that the days are bright for the children of District 1. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mr. Bishop.
Thank you so much, Chairman Cothran and Dr. Smith and school board, who I know many of you and have served with you. I was blessed enough to be called to this community 14 years ago to serve on staff at First Baptist Landrum, consequently become the pastor just a little over 9 years ago. Had 2 daughters who graduated from Landrum High School and have been involved in depth in every area of the school system, even today. And tomorrow morning, I'll be at a Next Level Leadership Club at Landrum Middle School with 10 to 12 young 7th graders to help train them to be leaders. So I understand the difficulty of your job. I understand what you do, and I thank you. I thank you for what you do to serve. I know it's difficult. There's nobody probably better than pastors know how difficult it is to sit in a public eye and have people who have never done what you do come in and tell you what you should do. We understand that. We understand that difficulty. As I said, I have 2 daughters who graduated Landrum High School. Landrum High School in District 1 prepared them to be excellent college students, now career, one of them a teacher, a 2nd grade teacher, and she hopes to be one day back in District 1 teaching as well. Being that said, as many others have said, it was just a surprise, honestly, I've heard of the debates going on at those routers in Polk County about this same issue of things being in our public libraries that are really, it's not a matter of censorship for me. I understand that you're public educators. We are public educators. We're not here to indoctrinate. We're here to educate. Diversity is part of education. I understand that diversity. But there's a difference between diversity and obscenity. And what we have to do as leaders in this community, is to stand up for our children. I believe every one of you do that. I've talked with Dr. Smith. I've talked with Mr. Cothran. I've talked to many of these other board members. I know that is at your heart. That's at our heart. That's why we're here tonight. We love these kids. We know that you love these kids. And what we're asking you to do, what I'm asking you to do, is to look at our policy. We're not asking you just to yank books off shelves or ban things. We're asking you to look and develop a policy that stands against obscenity. And if we can stand against obscenity, then we can eliminate these. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that our young people are getting their desires met with library books. I understand that. Most of them are doing it on their cell phone. And that's a parent issue. But at the same time, we need to do everything we possibly can to stand in the gap to make sure that our children are protected and they have a safe environment to learn and grow and succeed. And I believe that's all of our responsibility. And I thank you for what you do. I know it's a thankless task. And the only time you hear from us is when there's things that people are upset about. But I want to tell you, I appreciate you. I thank you for what you do every single week.
Thank you, Pastor Bishop. Next up, we have Kayla Bruce and Haley Jackson. Ms. Jackson, would you like to go first?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Haley Jackson, and my children attend District 1 schools. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the entire board for giving us the opportunity to speak. I would like to begin by reading an excerpt from page 60 of Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. Are you going to eat her pussy? Yes, Earl, I'm going to eat her pussy. Do you even know how to eat pussy? Not really. Papa Gaines never sat you down and taught you how to eat pussy? No, but he did teach me how to eat butthole. Are you shifting in your chair? Did these words make you uncomfortable? As a 39-year-old wife and mother of two, they make my skin crawl. This is not language that we would ever promote to further our children's vocabulary. I see no educational benefit in these books. They create unhealthy images for our children. These are subjects that they shouldn't even be aware of. We are doing nothing to encourage the innocence of our youth today. Instead, we're pushing pornography through words. Our schools are supposed to protect our children. School is supposed to be a safe space for our babies. The buildings are filled with teachers who do not take their profession lightly. They work diligently to guide our children in the way they should go. They have the responsibility of training up our future. We have dedicated, committed police officers in place to protect their physical beings. But yet we have this filth in their libraries. We must protect their minds as well. At the last meeting, I sat and listened to new behavioral policies being put into effect that you all spent time, work, money, effort into creating, writing rules and crafting ideas to help our children, and I support and thank you for it. It's a great policy. But we must realize that what we pour into our children is what's going to come back out. If you feed their minds with this trash, what type of fruit do you expect to see? No behavioral policy will be able to offset the damage that these books will provide. When will we quit walking in the shadows and stand up for those who are unable to stand up for themselves? Our children deserve better than this. We have become complacent and are quick to compromise as a society. We know something is wrong, but we don't want to take a stand. Tonight, I will take that stand. I do not want my children to have access to this material, and if each of you are honest with yourselves, you wouldn't either. Our children have it harder than we did. They're faced with so much more. They're being forced to accept things that are truly unacceptable. But we can do something about this. Take the books out. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." That's my responsibility as a parent, and it's yours as an educator.
Ms. Jackson, time's up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Bruce?
Thank you guys for allowing us out here. I'd like to offer some constructive criticism. As a lifelong resident, District 1, spent all my years in District 1, kindergarten through 12th grade, and I'm proud of that. I love our district, love it. I love my kids. I love the kids of this district. And to be quite honest, we've let our kids down. We have failed our kids in this area. And the board in particular has failed our kids in this matter. But we can make this right. And I think we're on that road, we're on that path, and hopefully policy will be created to fix that. But in the prior meetings I've been privileged to see, many on the board think this is kind of a issue to sweep under the rug, or an issue that's not that big a deal because it's just library books that rarely get picked up. It's deeper than that. It's a bigger problem than that, and that's what I want to address in particular with my time. The summer recommended reading for Landrum High School and Chapman High School both included books that are terrible, okay? The Kite Runner. A summary of concerns. This book contains sexual assault of a minor, prostitution involving minors and adults, and mild and frequent profanity. Slaughterhouse-Five. Listen, here's the thing. Out of all the books, a teacher picked this book to recommend for summer reading. It contains explicit violence, including animal cruelty, and explicit sexual activities, including bestiality, sexual nudity, profanity, and inflammatory religious commentary. This is not a book just sitting in a library shelf. It's a book recommended by a teacher for students to read in their summertime. I love our teachers, and I've had great teachers growing up in District 1. I know there's a lot of great teachers in our district. But this is constructive criticism, okay? This needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed, first and foremost, it's the board's responsibility to address it. And you address this through policy. Unfortunately, we don't have a good policy right now for this. And I think the reason being, because who would ever dream that you would even need a policy saying you shouldn't have this material in a school? But we find ourselves at this point. So I would encourage the board to do something about this. And don't fail our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. The next two, Charlie Edwards and John and Haley Gimler.
I'll do my best.
All right, Mr. Edwards, your time starts when you start.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Edwards. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to hear mine and other community members' thoughts and concerns. The vulgar, obscene, and in some instances grotesque nature in these books that have been brought forward tonight should not be allowed to remain in public school libraries of this district. They are not fit for any adult to read, let alone a child. There are no redeeming or virtuous qualities that can be gained, and I find it shocking and disappointing that this issue has been allowed to fester for the amount of time that it has been. If a cursory search and review had been done, it would have revealed that these books contain sexually explicit, pornographic depictions, which easily meet or exceed the statutory definition of obscenity. For materials of this nature to have been introduced to District 1 schools, it is obvious that there is a lack of breakdown and oversight. According to the Miller test, which is a primary legal test for determining whether something constitutes obscenity, a material is obscene if it satisfies the following. The average person would find the work encouraging sexual matters. The work describes or depicts explicit conduct that is against the applicable state or regional laws, and that the work lacks political, artistic, scientific, or literary value. I'm requesting that such a selection process be used when selecting materials for student consumption now and going forward for any future books that have been admitted to the library's inventory. I trust that you agree that pornography, obscenity have no place in our district schools and do not contribute to the cultivation of young, healthy minds. I would also like to point out the fact that America is the largest consumer of explicit and pornographic material in the world. This being the case, I would like to know why and how this board would continue to allow such materials and images to remain in the hands of our young people that are under your watch and care. And lastly, I'd like to point out my grandmother, Helen Williams, was a member of District 1 schools, and she retired from here. And she was able to have a career of dignity and respect. I'm just asking that this be removed so teachers going forward can have the same legacy that she left them with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening. I'm John Gimler. This is my wife, Haley Gimler. I'd like to start off by thanking everybody here for giving us an opportunity to speak our opinions and our minds on some matters at hand. I'm here tonight to talk about the material that is in the District 1 libraries. I'd like to start out by reading from Ephesians 4, verse 29. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such that is good for building up as fits the occasion. That is, it may give grace to those who hear. Whether you're a believer or not, which I pray that each and every one of us are in this room, I think those are some words to live by. Speaking of which, I would like to now read an excerpt from the book, A Court of Mist and Fury. Not knowing my audience, I'll keep it to the least vulgar that I was able to find. Stars wheeled as he slammed deep. I think the light pouring out of me might have been starlight, or maybe my own vision fractured as Reese barreled into me again, and Reese found his, gasping my name over and over as he spilled himself inside of me. I don't think I need to elaborate on how unnecessary that this language is. That being said, I would like to introduce an article that I read from the National Institute of Mental Health, revised earlier this year, that stated, although the brain stops growing in size by early adolescence, and the teen years are all about fine-tuning and how the brain works. The brain finishes developing and maturing in the mid to late 20s. This being said, along with the scripture that I read earlier, I would like to leave the board questioning the educational benefit of the material that I have mentioned today. How can we promote this non-corruptive speech when our youth are exposed and taught this material from a young age? That being said, I believe my wife has a little bit of a testimonial that I'd like to leave her with.
Good evening. Again, my name is Haley, and I'm actually a proud alumni of Landrum High School class of 2018. I'll be brief, but I want to thank you for being patient and willing to hear our concerns as a community. Today, I will let the books speak for themselves, as my husband also mentioned, and give my testimony as an alumni. In 2015, my family and I were living in Texas, where I attended a 6A high school. Though it was Texas, even the mere mention of my beliefs in a paper put me in a difficult position with faculty and fellow students. With the full support of my parents, we relocated to Landrum, South Carolina, where they still pray at football games, and you can leave your car running outside the hardware store. With special thanks to my teachers and coaches, who some are actually here tonight, I graduated with a full academic scholarship to college. I was granted those scholarships through my lunch breaks spent in the library with Miss Phillips. In college, I worked at a summer camp where I worked with thousands of kids who were silently battling some of the worst things you can imagine. I can tell you, nowhere in my training I was told how to handle a 12-year-old hiding her pregnancy from her friends and youth group. My point is, in today's world, for a lot of children, school and summer camps are their safe space from the perversion that might already be in their lives. So why would you absolutely destroy the shield of protection with the provocative content that has been brought to light here today? And I finish up here. I beg you, as a proud citizen, a wife, and hopefully a future mother here in District 1, stand firm and be the voice these kids don't seem to have now. Keep the library a place of growth and not an environment to rot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Gimler. The next two speakers are Michelle Walker and Angelia McCalla.
Good evening. I want to start by saying thank you to the school board members for your time and service to the community. I appreciate your willingness to serve and to listen tonight to the citizens like me that you represent. My name is Michelle Walker, and I, like many of you, wear different hats in my everyday life. First, I am a Christian. I have the honor of serving as a board member of Christ the Community, a ministry that's based in South Carolina. Our mission for this ministry is to educate, evangelize, and encourage Christ-like discipleship to everyone. I'm also a partner at the Well Church in Landrum, where I serve ministering to our youth many of whom attend District 1 schools. I'm also a wife, but today I want to speak to you from another hat. This hat I know the Lord graced me with. It's as a mother of 4 children. Their ages are 16, 13, 10, and 7. Every morning, we parents send our children out into the world to school, entrusting teachers, the admin staff, the district, with our most precious gifts. We have the utmost confidence that these teachers will pour into our children, filling them with not only an education that will grow their minds, but to also come alongside us and help prepare our children for their future. As parents today, we face a different world and new challenges than our parents did and the parents before us. Today, we have to worry and pray for our children's safety while they're at school, their physical and mental safety. Our children have enough against them in this cultural climate that we live in. Their minds are growing and developing, some of them at ages where they're making decisions on who they're going to be. These thoughts, feelings, and emotions are laying their foundation for their adult future. Now, I myself am an avid reader. I love all books, Christian books, biographies, educational, and I read fiction too. I love to walk through the author's process. I love creativity. However, I'm an adult. I know what's healthy and good for my soul, my mind, and my spirit. But to openly supply our children with books that are grotesque, depicting abusive behaviors such as rape, physical violence, show, describe, and depict pornographic imagery and behavior, perverse and vulgar language that is tantamount to hate speech, is nothing more than our schools harming our children and destroying their minds. We are showing them how to be abusive to one another, teaching our young men that it's okay to rape our young girls, teaching our young girls that it's okay to be abused, teaching them that it's okay and even encouraging disgusting sexual behavior at their young age, teaching them and encouraging hate and violence. We are poisoning our children during their most formative years. Lastly, I want to draw something to attention here. I, as an adult, under the Second Amendment, have the legal right to bear arms and carry a gun. Our children have the exact same legal right to carry a pocket knife, as long as it doesn't exceed a certain length. We can't bring those to school. Those are weapons to keep them safe. These books are weapons, and you are allowing them to destroy their minds. It's no different than a bullet hole in someone's skin. It's no different than a wound a knife would leave. You just can't see the damage you are doing to their mental health. And I pray you vote to take these books out of school. Sincerely, it is my hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Ms. McCalla.
Good evening. Ooh, sorry. Hold on. My name is Angelia McCalla. I'm a parent of 2 children in School District 1. First, I want to thank the board members here for your time and service to our community. Also, thank you for making the community aware of this crucial issue. Without you, the members making this known, we the citizens may have not known this obscene literature. I want to address this issue from a perspective that we all can agree on, no matter what religious perspective we may or may not share. Some have wrongly argued that to remove these vulgar books is to censor free speech. This is not true according to the laws of the land. The federal and state laws of our land do not consider obscenity and pornographic material to minors as free speech. Therefore, as community and you as the board can agree with what the current law of the land. The United Supreme Court has clearly said that there are legitimate state interests at stake in stemming the tide of obscenity through effective safeguards against exposure of such materials to juveniles. Furthermore, the United States Supreme Court has specifically stated a school board may remove pervasively vulgar material. The reason a school board may do so is because obscene material is outside the coverage of the First Amendment protections. In other words, the United States Supreme Court says obscene material is not freedom of speech. Therefore, obscenity may be regulated and removed from the presence of minor children because by law, children are incapable of consenting to such exposure. So this is not censorship because obscenity is not legal right for children. There is no legal right for minors to have obscenity, vulgar, and profane materials because those materials fall outside the legal realm of free speech. Second, some of you wrongly argue for these obscene books, also wrongly claim you remove these obscene books, then, Second, some of you wrongly argue for these obscene books, also wrongly claim if you remove these obscene books that you could or should remove religious books like the Bible from the library. This too is false because, again, the law of the land says otherwise and indeed speaks to this matter. Again, the United Supreme Court has specifically said a person's education is not complete without a study of comparative religion on the history of religion and its relationship to advancement of civilization. And certainty may be said that the Bible is worthy of study for its literary and historic qualities. That is the Supreme's view of the value of the Bible. But to the contrary, these obscene books in our school libraries are not works of literary or historic value. But the highest court of our land has affirmed the Bible is. So there is no legitimate case that the Bible would also have to be removed if an obscene book policy is passed. Those who say should do not know or do not value what the law of the land states. Lastly, if you think this is a matter, thank you again for allowing me to speak. I look forward to your policy banning these obscene books.
Thank you, Ms. McCalla. Next, we have Matt Padula and Jonathan and Danielle Poirier.
Just me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Matt Padula. I'm a pastor at the Well Church in Landrum, where I serve as the worship pastor and small groups director under our senior pastor, Brandon Poirier, who is in attendance tonight. I'm also a husband to my beautiful wife of 22 years, a father of a daughter who is a graduate of Landrum High School and Converse College, who's here tonight, as well as a 4-year-old son who will soon attend District 1 schools. And I'm also a business owner. I want to sincerely thank Chairman Cothran, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Smith, as well as the teachers, students, and parents in attendance tonight. I pray for you all and the enormous responsibility you carry as educators and administrators. What you do for our children and this community is highly valued and respected, and in my humble opinion, underappreciated. What brings me here this evening is this. It has come to my attention that there is obscene and pornographic literature in our school libraries, at least at the high school level. In reviewing some of these materials, I, along with others that I represent here tonight, believe these materials not only cross the line of acceptability and quality, but they also qualify as obscene, lewd, and vulgar, but also lack in literary, artistic, and even scientific value. I do not think these materials reflect the values of this community, especially District 1. The literature I have examined depicts vulgarity, sexual acts, even sexual violence, racist language, and the degradation of women as well as men. Now, I must admit that I am not one who's easily offended. I came to Christ at the age of 24 and had many years of living in the world before I dedicated my life to Him. Without going into details, I will tell you that before coming to Christ, I had seen, heard, and even spoke many things that I would characterize as obscene and would probably make many of you here tonight uncomfortable or even blush. My time as a deputy sheriff exposed me to the complete depravity that humanity is capable of. But even with all of that, I was shocked at the content of these books, and I will leave it at that. I am requesting that you as board members work to establish a school board policy that will, 1, remove the current literature from the school, 2, better reflect the legal standards and definitions of what constitutes obscenity, and 3, reduce further harmful materials from entering our schools for good. We depend on you as our local leaders and representatives to remain vigilant for the cause of protecting the innocent minds of our young people and teaching them sound values and virtues, virtues that we graciously have been gifted by our Lord for the good of us all. As I pray for you, will you join me in taking the next steps toward defending these virtues and protecting our children? Luke 11:34 and 35, your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore, be careful lest the light in you be darkness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padula. Next, we have Tim Koch and Kinsey Cummings. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead. Put me on the spot here, aren't you? Too good. Good evening. My name is Kinsey Cummings. I attend Landrum High School, and I participate in Landrum's JROTC program, where I hold a position of chaplain. Thank you, board members, for your time and your respect for letting the students and the community have a voice. I'm here this evening to discuss the material being presented in our school library. The material I am speaking of is the pornographic, obscenity, and racism that you have made us aware of. I do not see why we allow this in our district when we are not allowed to speak, wear, or even look up certain words without our administrators punishing us. You may ask, why should we ban these books if they can be obtained from our local library? It's the same reason why we don't allow tobacco and vaping products in our schools. We want to protect the children, especially their minds. I've been under the guidance and support of the men at the Well Church since 2013. These men have shown me that everything created by God is beautiful, but Satan manipulates it according to his will. Pornography, for example, destroys the beauty of God's creation and encourages the community to degrade and disrespect people. This brings no benefit to any person, but this brings destruction and corruption. Taking these books out of the school libraries is such obscene material. It's just one more way we can stop the spread of corruption throughout our youth. Thank you for keeping an open mind, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Cummins.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak this evening. I wasn't expecting to be called up. I didn't finish putting in my information. I'm not a resident of District 1. I live in Polk County.
Mr. Koch, if you're not a resident, I'm sorry, we can't allow you to speak in this forum.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, though.
All right, next we have Tommy Turner and Jack Howard.
I'll go.
I'll go if you'll clean up my mess.
Happy Seth.
I mean that. I come through Landrum. My kids came through town, through Landrum. But with that being said, when I was in school, the book that I got caught with got me 5-day suspension by Mr. McDowell. The books you offer now is on the libraries. I don't understand that. But the Bible says in Isaiah 58:1, he said, cry loud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and let the transgression of my people know, in the house of Jacob, their sins. I believe we're here to do one thing. We're here to expose the nonsense that's made its way in our kids' hands. We get our kids 30 minutes at a time in church to try to teach them about God. Y'all get them 8 hours a day and they're corrupting what we're trying to do. I'm not your average Joe. The second thing we need to do is we need to educate you and everybody here on what's right in the eyes of God and what is wrong. We shouldn't even be having this debate. Years ago, if you'd have told me this, and I say this with the most humble heart, I'd have never thought I'd have lived to today that when Landrum would be offering something like that. The third thing we must do, we must exterminate what's happened in our school system. I come through Landrum. My kids, and I'd have never thought in a million years that we would ever have to have a debate on a Monday night when we should be eating, trying to convince folks that what's going on in our school system is wrong. Do you realize how hard it's becoming for a pastor to try to teach a family right from wrong when their kids get up and go to school and are taught it's okay to live and to hear things that's ungodly? It's not the kids' fault. It's the people's fault and the preachers' fault that has let this go on. If we don't stand up for what's right according to God's word, where will we be in another 5 years? It's only going to get worse. And let me close with this, because Preacher Tommy will clean up my mess. But we opened up in prayer. That lets me know you believe in Jesus Christ, and I pray that you do. And if that's the case and you're in church and you have a pastor, how in God's name did this ever get by anybody sitting up on that stage tonight? That's my question to the church. I'm not here to blast. I'm not here to put you down. But I will tell you this with a most humble heart. If we don't do something, God's judgment will be not only on the preachers, not only on the parents, but the ones that are sitting on the stage with the rest of us. I want my grandkids, I have 4 granddaughters, to go through Landrum. I want them to be educated by one of the greatest teachers, and I had great teachers. Miss Brady, Miss Cardell, Miss Hatchett, Miss Littlefield. They loved us. Do you think in a million years they'll let that nonsense get by? No. Thank God for the heritage we have. But we need you to make a stand tonight, or we need a new body of boards. Go ahead, Doc.
Thank you, Pastor Howard.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Turner.
I don't think a team of preachers can straighten that out. Amen. I just want to give a biblical illustration. And as I stand here, I don't have any rocks to throw because I have responsibility in this. I have accountability. And the Bible lesson I'm thinking about is a man, actually the only man in the Word of God that's called a man after God's own heart, and that's David. He fought a lot of battles to keep his people clean, protected, and safe. He stood in the gap, he made up the hedge. But one time, he decided, I'm not fighting. I'm finished. I'm going to lay around. And it cost him 4 of his children. One time. You know, I think about you, the battles you fight. Mark, the things that you've talked to us preachers about, things you have planned, things y'all do, it's wonderful. Y'all doing a great job. And I think about us as pastors, we fight a lot of battles too. And right now, I don't have any children in District 1 schools. I'm a graduate. My wife's a graduate. My youngest son's a graduate. But I pastor a slew of them. And they're facing a lot of stuff and a lot of different battles. And I don't want us who are going to be accountable, us as pastors, parents, us, to lay down just one time. To give up just one time. We need to make this a serious matter, because I don't want to lose one, much less 4. And how many have we've already lost because we fought a lot of battles and got a lot of victories and have a lot of war scars. But one time, one time. It just takes one time. And we'll see a detrimental problem. I think that the majority has spoken, and we need to remember that we have allowed our country to be controlled by a minute bunch of people, and we back up in fear. It's time to quit being afraid. It's time to make a stand and keep fighting. Keep being what we ought to be, and make a stand here. Yes, there's going to be some opposition, yes, but we're going to fight with you. Amen. We're not just talking. We'll stand with you, and we'll be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Turner. The next two we have are Aniston Hester and Kenny McDowell.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Aniston Hester, and I'm a proud graduate of Landrum High School. I spent every single year of my education, from kindergarten to senior year, in District 1. I would like to thank everyone for allowing me to speak on what I believe is protecting our community's children, as they will be adults soon enough and be forced to face the language and all of the things that come along with becoming an adult. As we all know, technology has greatly evolved and has children becoming adults earlier and earlier in life. As a place of safety where kids can be kids while focusing on their education, books with this type of subject matter should not be allowed in what is supposed to be a safe environment for students. I understand that when they leave the school building, unfortunately, there's not much that we can do. But let's do what we can to take care of them there. With mentioning how much technology has changed, it has been a helpful tool within the school systems. There are filters put in place on these devices to filter out the sexual content and language that is not appropriate. I have read several passages from the books we are discussing this evening, and quite honestly, I did not feel comfortable at all with reading them aloud here, and I cannot imagine that some of you were either. However, to those that did, we appreciate you. Is it hypocritical to filter one learning tool and not filter the other? The solution to this issue would be to remove the books from these libraries as soon as possible and protect our students within this community. I'm not against you, I stand with you, and I pray with you that whatever policies get put into place, that you would take care of our community and our students. I ask that you remain steadfast, and we all support you in protecting our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hester.
Thank you, Chairman, Superintendent, members of the board. My name is Kenny McDowell, a lifelong resident of Inman, a graduate of Chapman High School, also having 3 daughters who attended Chapman. And I personally want to thank you guys for the work that you do and how you serve our students. I've always felt District 1 was the best district of all the districts of Spartanburg County. However, I come today being shocked and astonished that we have allowed the presence of sexual explicit materials to have been introduced or allowed in our District 1 schools. As a pastor, as a citizen of District 1, I strongly oppose these pornographic, sexual, graphic books that are harmful to our students and leads to the normalization of unhealthy sexual behaviors and attitudes, which has been proven to have long-term negative effects on their mental and emotional well-being. It is understandable that we do not want our students to see and read depictions of sex acts and deviant behavior. It is obvious that there's been either a lack of or a complete breakdown in any existing oversight process or screening standards by our library committees. This must be fixed immediately by implementing a new policy, establishing a new review committee whose job would be to oversee all the books and materials to make sure that only those materials that are appropriate to meet the standards of our community are selected. It would be wise for us to appeal to the South Carolina Code of Laws, which states that government has a vested interest, along with this board, in the protection of our children from harmful pornographic materials that can cause mental, emotional, psychological trauma to our students. Even our governor, Henry McMaster, wrote in a recent article, quote, "I trust you would agree that pornographic and obscenity has no place in the state public schools, much less in our libraries," end quote. The disseminating of obscene materials is against the law in the state of South Carolina. If I checked out the sexual explicit books that are in our media center and gave them tonight to a minor right outside the school, I could be arrested tonight for obscene material to a minor. However, they are protected within the school building. How is that possible? There's no credible way there's no way. So, let me just say this. We're here to support you. We are here to support the board. As long as you do what is right, let us work together to keep our community, our district safe from anyone who desires to harm our children. We must uphold that which is right in the sight of God and protect our students from any form of evil. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor McDowell. The last two speakers of the night are Brad Atkins and Brandon Pori.
You go ahead.
Defer to youth.
Let you go, if that's all right.
That's fine. You know, it's amazing what you find out when people find out you found out about stuff. I have found out more in the last 24 hours than in the last several weeks put together. And what I've found out has really encouraged me. By finding out what you as the board are already doing to help with this problem. To not just take books off the shelf that are the current issue, but to put policy and procedures in place that will keep books like this from becoming an issue moving forward. I was blessed tonight before I came to this meeting to be able to speak to the Chapman football team. It's a privilege that I don't take lightly. Now, I could say to the head coach, hey, you know, I was a Chapman Panther, graduated in 1990. I was a Campbell Grambling Wildcat. I mean, I graduated, I guess you'd call it, from Campbell Grambling Elementary School. I even learned how to cook a casserole and fold clothes in Miss Rogers' home economics class. I mean, there's a lot of accolades I could have thrown, but the opportunity that I had to speak to those young men was about a very obscure character in the Bible. We talk about how these books are just a few, 44 to 50 books out of hundreds, if not thousands, in these libraries. They're obscure. They're just insignificant in the grand scheme of the scope of what's actually available to our young people. But in 2 Samuel chapter 23, there's an obscure story about a young man named Shammah. The greatest thing we learn about Shammah is that Shammah took his stand. And it's amazing when you look at the story where he chose to take his stand. Shammah took his stand in a field of lentils, a pea patch, things that were insignificant, that in the grand scope and the grand scheme of things really didn't amount to much. I mean, it's just a few lentils, just a few peas. But the interesting thing is because Shammah chose to take his stand, it says that God brought about the victory. I'm grateful. My son graduated from Chapman in 2019. I don't have any current kids that are in the school district of 1, but my son, myself, my father, we're all products of School District 1. I was always grateful for what School District 1 meant in my life and the influence it had in my life, what it had in my son's life. But when I think about this concept about you as men and women on the board, having that Shammah moment to take a stand, that I'm grateful that I've already found out you're already standing. Paul, when he wrote to the church at Philippi in 1 Philippians chapter 1, verse number 10, he said, so that you might determine what really matters. You as a board have already determined what really matters. I'm not here to say that if you don't do what we're telling you to do, we're going to vote you out. I'm not here, believe me, to say that I'm going to run, because believe me, I got enough on my plate without being on the school board. Y'all have my prayers. You have my condolences. Some of what you have to endure, I can imagine, because I'm a pastor. But men and women, let me say to you, this is a Shema moment. You're already standing. Continue to stand. When you get weak, we'll be here to hold up your arms. But as a board, determine what really matters. Keep standing. Keep doing what's right. God will bless you. We'll be praying for you, and we'll see him bring about a victory. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Atkins.
Brad stole my speech. I'm going to turn just a little bit this way. Forgive my voice. I was at a Little League football game yesterday, or Saturday morning that I coached, screaming my head off. So I think there were about 2 or 3 people that didn't speak. Do I get their time? That wasn't a joke. I was not. All jokes aside, I want to really echo a lot of what Brad said. And I'll start out by saying thank you so much to the board and to Dr. Smith, who I know is working hard on these issues already. My name is Brandon Poree. I'm the teaching pastor at the Well Church in Landrum that has spoken so well tonight. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of our community for coming out in droves to let it be known where we stand on this issue. I can only imagine how these books got into our school. I can only imagine how they've remained in our school. When I read the explicit nature and the obscenities and the vulgarities and the sexual perversion, I really read them in astonishment that they could have been allowed to be there in the first place. I graduated from Landrum High School in 1999. I've lived in Landrum my entire life. I went to Opie-Earl. We didn't have a middle school then. We just went straight to high school. But I graduated in 99. I have 4 kids in District 1 public schools. I've got 2 in Opie-Earl, 1 at Landrum Middle School, and I've got 1 who is the quarterback that beat Polk County last Friday night. That's right. Hey, pause that thing for a second. Listen, I want to offer a little bit of different. I think we've already seen reasonably, but that this is really disgusting. It's unbelievable, but that these books are in there. Thankfully, I have full faith in our board and Dr. Smith that they're already handling this. They're already dealing with this. I have full faith in them. And just to finish that part and echo what Brad said, look, it's been said to me that we need to be careful because there may be a fight coming. I've never backed away from a fight in my entire life, and I promise you this, I've got your back. Okay? But with that being said, I think they're going to do the right thing. I know they are because I believe them. And these are men and women who have character. How'd they get there? I don't know. How did they get by? I'm not sure. But it's been pointed out. The community's been heard. And I know they're going to do the right thing. But what I want to do now is I want to turn that mirror around. And I want to speak to me and I want to speak to you. You see, I'm not just a graduate from Landrum High School. I'm a pastor in our area. And I don't say this to brag, but this is my point, is that I'm in Opie-Earl, Landrum Middle School, and Landrum High School at least once a week. I am a teacher and a mentor in the next level leadership that Mark spoke of earlier, that mentors 10 to 12 young men, and we will be with those 10 to 12 young men. We started it last year until the 12th grade when they graduate. You see, I'm a part of FCA, and I speak at FCA as often as I possibly can. This past week, I went and I let the teachers leave for their lunch duties while I sat with the kids and loved on them, poured into them, and watched over them so the teachers could get a break. You see, I love District 1, and the point that Dr. Smith made was that our area is exploding. Well, you know why? It's because our schools are phenomenal. All we're saying is let's keep them that way, and we will help you to do it. I have full confidence in them that they're going to do the right thing. But what I want to do when I turn that mirror around for me and for you, don't talk about it, guys. Be about it. Look at this crowd. Look at this crowd. We've all shown up to say what we don't approve of. How much time are you spending mentoring the kids in Opie Earl, the kids in Mabry, the kids at Chapman, the kids at LHS? We can't just talk about it, we got to be about it. And there's 1,000 different opportunities that you can take to pour into our children, to love our children, to watch over our children, to protect our children. I know that our schools in District 1 are filled with wonderful teachers, wonderful administration. I see Principal Murray sitting right there. I know that man. I have spent time with that man. I know what type of man he is, and I trust him with my kids. I know Principal Amy Walker, and I know what type of woman she is. I know David Kirkland. I know Keegan Flynn. I know the teachers. I support them 100%. I'm telling you right now that we have to be there, link arms with them, hold them accountable. They hold us accountable, and we work together. I have been under fire for years and years for having my kids in public school because public schools across our land are going insane. Not here, not on my watch. And I defend D1 schools, and I defend them ferociously. Why? Because D1 schools are incredible. This is not incredible. This is a problem. And it's been said to me that, well, nobody's checking those books out. Number one, they are checking them out. They're being assigned, and summer reading is being suggested, but that's not the point. The point is that if they are in our libraries, then we are saying, if by nothing else, by our silence, it's okay. It's not. And they agree. Most all of them I've spoken to agree. What we need to do is rally behind these guys when they make the hard decisions. Don't be here tonight to get loud about something and then not be here next month and then the following month and then the following month. But here we are. We've shown up. Now let's get behind these guys and let them know we're not against you. We're for you. And when you do the right thing and people do rise up, they'll have to rise up against all of us. Amen? Amen. I know I went way over, but I guess I wouldn't be me if I didn't. I want to finish by saying this. Dr. Smith, I've spent more time with you in the past month than getting to know you, and I love you. Billy, rest of the board, I'm not against you. I promise. I promise I'm not against you. I am for you. I am for you, and I will fight alongside of you. I will go the extra mile with you. Not that I got a lot of extra time, but I'll make time because what you're doing is important, and you've got our support as you continue to progressively move toward doing what everybody knows should be done. I salute you for that, and I love you.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, so that concludes our public participation portion of the agenda. Do I have, or does anybody on the board want to entertain a motion for a 5-minute break?
I would entertain a motion for a 5-minute break.
I got a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Board members, if y'all will make your way back up, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, the next item on our agenda is the personnel report. Dr. Trish Beeson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. According to the information that you received in your packets for the personnel report, there are no retirements or resignations for consideration for tonight. We do have one hire that I would like to recommend you approve.
All right, we've received that information in our board packet. The recommendation from staff is to approve the employment for the individual for the 2023-24 school year. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the hiree as mentioned in the packet.
I second.
Got a motion. Who made the motion?
Mark.
Mr. Rollins, okay. Motion by Mr. Rollins, second by Ms. Rogers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Beeson. Next item on the agenda is our policy report. Ms. Jada Tesnier.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board of Trustees. In your packet this evening, you have a first reading of the second section of B. All considerations were made based upon the feedback given at the last board work session, and certainly those policies do reflect that. Since you've had these for some time now, Mr. Chairman, if it suits the board, I would like to just read the name of the policy and continue on down unless there is discussion by any board members that they would like to have.
Yes, ma'am, please do.
Okay. BC, Board Member Conduct. BCA, Board Member Code of Ethics. BCB, Board Member Conflict of Interest. BD, BDR, Organization of the Board. BDD, Board Superintendent Relationship. BDE, Board Committees. BDF, BDFR, Advisory Committees. BDG, BDH, BE, BEC, Executive Session Open Meetings, BEDA, Board Meeting Notifications, BEDB, Board Agenda, BEDF, Voting Method at Board Meetings, BEDG, Minutes of Board Meetings, BEDH, public participation at meetings, BEDI, news media services at board meetings, BEDJ, BEDJR, board member broadcasting, BEDL, board members and electronic communications, BEDM, electronic participation in board meetings, BEDN, board members' use of district-owned portable devices, BG, BGDR, school board policy process with an administrative rule, BIA, BIB, new board member orientation, board member development opportunities, BID, board member compensation and expenses, BIF, board member liability insurance, BJ, board legislative program, and BK, board membership in professional associations. Once again, these are going for a first reading. As required by the School Board Association, there must be 2 readings of any policy, whether it is a new policy or an amendment, to be fully enacted by the board after 2 votes.
And as a reminder to the board, these are all the policies that were discussed in the board workshop. So do I have a motion to approve the first reading of the policies discussed?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading of these section policies.
I have a motion by Ms. Baker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ross. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion for the first reading passes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Ms. Tessnier. Next on the agenda is the finance report by Ms. Lacey Brady.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board of Trustees. At this time, in regards to teacher equalization funding, administration is recommending that we reassign 2 mills from our current operating millage. What that means is our current operating millage is at 197.2 mills, and we will decrease that by 2 mills, and that will go to a separate teacher equalization fund at the county treasurer's office. This recommendation comes because a couple weeks ago, we got in our final allocations from county equalization, which came in a couple $100,000 more than what we originally anticipated. And we believe that that will be enough to cover what we will owe for FY 23-24 in regards to teacher equalization funding.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation to reassign 2 mills to the teacher equalization fund from staff. Is there a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to accept the reassignment of the 2 mills.
Motion by Mr. Sloan to accept the reassignment. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Rollins. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a note in the minutes that due to the excess funds that provided release so that we may reassign these millage, that next year the increase in millage is inevitable to continue with our commitment to the Spartanburg County Teacher Equalization Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I know last year when we talked about this, we talked about taking into account this in the budgeting process as opposed to raising taxes. And I had a question of Ms. Brady in the quarterly finance report that she provided. Did I read that we were able to add $3.5 million to the general fund balance at the end of 22-23?
That was preliminary numbers. That is going to be more around 3 million, but yes, ma'am. The majority of that increase is due to state revenues in FY 22-23. You know, the state just implemented the new funding formula, and that funding formula, we do not have a good way to budget what we're going to get. So as a note, when we do our budgeting process, we are operating on proposed amounts from the state, which can change at any time. I will notate that increased enrollment does not guarantee that you're going to get an increased amount from the state. There were several school districts at day 45 and day 135 in the previous year who saw significant increases in enrollment. However, their funding from the state did decrease. So while we were winners in 22-23 and we received well over $1 million, that may not always be the case as we get into this year in 23-24 for day 45 and day 135, and then the rest of that savings was due to the offset of ESSER funds and other federal funding that we were able to use to offset those expenditures. So, but yes, ma'am, between the increase in state funding and being able to utilize federal funding to offset our expenditures, we will add about $3 million to the fund balance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank Ms. Brady and her staff for bringing that information to us that would allow us to use a couple of meals to change over to support the efforts for teachers' pay. And like Mr. Sloan said, we're not always going to have that opportunity, but I do appreciate the information that allows us to do that this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. Any other comments or discussion? All right. Seeing that we have a motion on the floor, it has a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Brady. That being the last item of business on the agenda, last item is that of adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Holden, our virtual member, gave them his, he's ready to go. Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Rollins. All those in favor say aye. 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 We stand adjourned.